Okay, so we're going to go over some of the division problems from the pixel art practice. And the ones that have the digits in the answer box, all you're doing here is putting in your decimal point. So if you're looking at, I'm going to try to highlight this box here. If you are looking at, oh, you can see the circle. If you're looking at this problem right here, 7 and 66/100 divided by 9. If I tried to divide $7 whole dollars or 7 whole by 9, I would not be able to get an answer that's 1 whole. I don't have enough to divide by 9 and still end up with a whole number as my answer. So if you think about it, the 9 will not, you cannot make a group of 9 if you only have 7. So you have to combine the 7 and the 6 together and think about how many groups of 9 you can make with 76. And the answer to that is 8. So your decimal is going to go straight up here, but the 8 is going to end up above the 6. So your answer is going to start above the 6 in the tens place, and your decimal point would just go right here in front of the 8. Okay, you can put a 0 there if you would like, and it's going to color the boxes. If you did not put a 0 there, it would do it for you. Okay, so in the ones that just have the digits in the answer box, you are just figuring out where the decimal point is going. So in this second example here, this 9 and 51/100, if I have 9 whole, I have enough to divide by 6, or I have enough to make a group of 6. So I know that 6 can go into 9 one time. So my answer is going to be 1 point something. So all you have to do is put in the decimal point for those answers. Now, on the other ones, you do not have an answer in the box. So for these ones, you actually have to work these ones out. So I'm going to go to my notebook page, and I'm going to do a couple of these problems for you here. So we're going to start with 9 and 70/100 divided by 2. Okay, so I want you guys to put this on your boards as well. So set it up like this: 9 and 70/100 divided by 2. Okay, and I'm also going to show you a different strategy that you can use as well. I had a couple of students that prefer to organize their division in columns like this. This is a total preference. It is not something that you have to do, but for some students, it keeps them more organized if they put everything in a column like this. Okay, so I'm going to do both methods, and my decimal point would go here. Now, if we are dividing by a whole number, so we are dividing by a whole number. So if that is the case, then our decimal point does what? If we're dividing by a whole number, our decimal point is going to go straight up, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal point in here. Oh, let's see. I don't need my creative pen. Here we go. So my decimal point is going to go straight up here and straight up here. Okay. Now, I have to think to myself, all right, 2 is my divisor. So the number on the outside is called your divisor. And I'm going to look at this first number, which is 9. How many groups of 2 can I make if I have 9? How many groups of 2 can I make if I have 9? Some people say, how many times can 2 go into 9? 4. Yeah, so I can make 4 groups of 2 if I have 9. So the first thing I need to do is I need to put a 4 up here. I'm going to change colors. I'm going to put a 4 up there. Okay. All right. And on this method over here, I don't even know what this method is called, but I've had students that really like to use this method because it keeps them more organized. And they're going to do the same thing over here. And they're going to think I can make 4 groups of 2 if I have 9, and then you multiply next. Okay, if I make 4 groups of 2, how much do I have? 4 times 2 is? Anybody? 8. Okay, so 4 times 2 is 8, so I'm going to put the 8 down here. And if I was doing this model, I'd put the 8 over here, and I subtract that from 9. Okay, and so 9 minus 8 is 1. Okay, all right, got that? All right, next. I'm actually going to erase this line here because that looks ugly. All right. So the next thing we do, this example on the left is called the traditional algorithm. Okay, what I mean by that is this is the traditional way. Probably your parents were taught how to divide. It's the way that I was taught how to divide, and it just becomes so automatic the more you practice. Kind of like when you're riding a bike. Okay, if you know how to ride a bike, right? If you didn't ride a bike for a whole year, would you still be able to get on your bike and ride it a year later? Yes. Okay, same thing with long division. If you keep practicing and practicing and practicing, it's going to become automatic. The process will become automatic and it'll stick with you forever. Okay, so we are going to bring down the 7. Okay, we're going to bring down the 7 next to this 1. So our new number is 17. In this model over here on the right, instead of bringing down this 7, this model is going to scoot the 1 up to the 7 up here. And we're going to have 17 in this column. Okay, so we're still doing the same thing. We're just shooting up the leftover to the next column. So we're still working with 17. So how many groups of 2 go into 17? How many groups of 2 can I make with 17? 8. So that 8 goes up here. Okay? That 8 goes up here. And over here on the box strategy, not the box strategy, the column organization strategy, we would do the same thing. I can make 8 groups of 2 if I have 17, and then I multiply. So 8 times 2 is 16, or I could say 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, and then I am going to subtract. So 17 minus 16 is 1. 17 minus 16 is 1. All right, and then we are going to bring down the 0. Okay, if we're doing the traditional algorithm, if we're doing this other method, we're going to push up the 1 to here. So we're still working with the same numbers, 10 and 10. So 10 here and 10 here. Now, how many groups of 2 can I make with 10? 5. So the 5 goes at the top. Okay, I multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, again, over here, if I'm doing this way, I can make 5 groups of 2. If I have 10, 5 times 2 is 10. And when I subtract, I'm left with 0. And if there's nothing else to bring down and there's no other numbers, then that's your answer. Okay? All right? So your answer for this is 4 and 8500ths. So when you go back to the pixel art, you'll just type this in as 4 and 8500ths, and it will fill in the box with color. Okay? Let's do the next one. We have 2 and 1200ths divided by 2. Okay. Now this one could be mental math if you think about it in a slightly different way. And I'm going to ask you a question. Okay, so I've got 2 and 1200ths, and I want to divide that by 2. In other words, I want to split it evenly, right? What if I put a little symbol like that. If I had $2.12 and I split it evenly with Miss Tribble, if I had $2.12 and I split it with her, how much would we each get? $1.12. So we're going to get $1.06. Okay, we're each going to get $1.06. Okay, so let's make sure that we know how to do the math. Okay, so I'm going to look at my first number, which is a 2. How many groups of 2 can I make if I have 2? 1. So my 1 goes here. 1 times 2 is 2. And I subtract, and I'm going to end up with 0. Okay. I'm going to bring down the 1, and I'm going to repeat the process again. So how many groups of 2 can I make if I have 1? 0. Okay. Now, you have to put a 0 up there as a placeholder. You have to put a 0 up here. Okay. 0 times 2 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Now we can bring down the 2. Okay. And then we think to ourselves, how many groups of 2 can I make with 12? 6. Okay, that 6 goes up here. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. I don't have anything left over. My decimal point's going to go straight up because I'm dividing by a whole number. And that's the end of the problem. Okay. If you were doing the other strategy, it would look like this. So 2 goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay, I'm going to scoot the 0 up here. Okay, that looks like 1. All right, and I look at that and I say, well, 2 doesn't go into 1, so I'm going to make this 0 up here. 0 times 2 is 0. That's going to leave me with 1, which is going to scoot up to make 12. 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 6 times 2 is 12, and we have none left. Okay, decimal point was here, and it would go straight up. Okay. All right, we're going to do one more. We are going to do, let me go back and type this in here. So 1 and 600ths. Okay. All right, I'm going to move down to, I'm not going to do that one. That one's almost mental math as well, if you think about money. All right, let's go up to this one here. 6 and 5800ths divided by 7. So, all right, 6 and 5800ths divided by 7. Okay, 7 on the outside, and I will put 6, 5, 8. Okay, so I don't have a preference on what strategy that you choose. Half the battle with multiplication and division is knowing your math facts. If you're having to spend your time counting on your fingers every time you have to divide, it's going to take a long time. And I think that's what discourages students from wanting to do multiplication and division, is because they're not automatic with their math facts. Okay, so I have 7 as my divisor, and I'm going to look at my first number. Can I make a group of 7 if I only have 6? No. So you can either put a 0 up here above this 6, or you could just put an X right there. It's not going to go into 6, so we're not going to put anything up there right now. And we're going to combine the 6 and the 5 to make 65. Okay. So now we can say, how many groups of 7 can I make if I have 65? So this is where our math facts come into play. I'm thinking of the number 63. Okay, I know that 63 is a multiple of 7, and that's pretty close to 65 without going over. So what is that magic number that I need? How many groups of 7 will go into 65? Thinking 63. I know 7 times what equals 63? 9. Okay, so I'm going to put a 9 up here above the 5. And 9 times 7 is 63. And 65 minus 63 is 2. And I can bring down that 8. And I'm going to repeat the process. So my new number is 28. How many groups of 7 can I make with 28? 4. So I'm going to put the 4 up here. Okay, 4 times 7 is exactly 28. Okay, and I subtract and I have 0. And my decimal point, since this is a whole number, my decimal point is going to shift straight up. If this was not a whole number, if this was, let's say, 0.7, what would I have to do to my decimal points? I would have to shift them over here to make it a whole, and I would have to do the same thing over here, okay? When you are dividing a decimal by a decimal, you have to shift your decimal point in your divisor over to the right to make it a whole number, and then you would have to do the same thing in the dividend. Okay, let's do this method again with this other strategy. And again, I'm starting with my first number in my first column. I don't have enough to make a group of 7, so nothing is going to go here. I am then going to just scooch the 6 over here and to make that 65. How many groups of 7 can I make with 65? If you look back over here, we said 9. So 9 is going to go there. 9 times 7 is 63. I'm going to subtract that and end up with 2. I'm going to slide the 2 up in front of the 8. And 7 goes into 20 exactly 4 times. And there you have your answer and your decimal point. Okay? So that's how you divide a decimal number by a whole number. I'm actually going to show you one more thing. And that is one of these other examples here that we're going to say 5 and 73/100 divided by 2. 5 and 73/100 divided by 2. I can tell just by looking at this problem that I'm going to have to add something to the end of my decimal number, because see how that 3 at the end is an odd number? That's going to make my problem end up with a leftover. In other words, I'm not going to be able to divide 5 and 73/100 exactly in half unless I have a 0 at the end of that number. So I'm going to show you what happens when you're in a situation like this. We're going to end up using what's called an annex 0. Okay. And this is what your calculator does when it figures out the problems when you type them in. Okay. All right. So how many groups of 2 can I make with 5? 2. All right. So the 2 goes up here. 2 times 2 is 4. And when I subtract, I end up with 1. 5 minus 4 is 1. Okay. Going to bring down the 7. So now my new number is 17. So I'm working with a group of 17. How many groups of 2 can I make if I have 17? 8. Okay, so 8's going to go up here at the top. And 8 times 2 is 16. And 17 minus 16 is 1. All right, going to bring down this 3 here. Okay, so now I've got 13. And I need to divide that by 2. Well, it's odd, so I know I'm going to end up with something left over. How many groups of 2 can I make with 13? 6. Okay, so the 6 is going to go up here, and 6 times 2 is 12. I'm going to run out of room down here at the bottom. Okay, and 13 minus 12 is, or 6 times 2 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. So I've got that left over, and I'm not going to write R1 up here, okay? All right, I have 1 left over. So what I'm going to do is instead of writing R1, I'm going to add an annex 0, okay? Right here at the end, okay? If I put a 0 at the end of that, it's still the same as 5 and 73 hundredths. 5 and 730 thousandths is equivalent. So now I can drop that down here all the way. Sorry, this is really small. That's going to give me 10 now. And how many groups of 2 can I make with 10? 5. 5 times 2 is 10, and that would leave us with nothing left over. So we would say minus 10, and 10 minus 10 is 0. So that's what happens if you end up with a leftover and there's nothing else to bring down. You add an annex 0 to the end of your dividend and drop that down until it divides evenly. Okay? All right, so that is it for today. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email.